Hello. Today I'd just like to go through with you how to put together a pre-printed panel children's book. So something like this one that I've got here is what we're going to end up with, not this exact one. I made this one a little time ago. So I've got a different panel now, but I thought I'd just go through the process. The panels come looking something like this. You've probably seen them, pre-printed, ready for you to cut out and sew. So this is what I'm going to work on today, is one like this. And so it comes with all the book pages, it comes with markings for you to cut, and it does come with some instructions, either down one side or perhaps along the bottom of the panel. So what it tells you to do is what, of course, we're going to do. It's got some dotted lines that it suggests that you cut along those to cut your page pieces apart. So you can cut on the dotted line. Don't cut in between where there is no dotted line. There's not meant to be a dotted line because we work on the pages as a two-page spread. So if you cut all your pieces out on the dotted line as it suggests, you can have a quick look at the instructions. It tells you what to do, but I'm going to go through that, and it's pretty much the same for any of these sort of pre-printed panel cloth books. So we're going to pop a little bit of batting in. I quite like that sort of quilted or batted feel about these children's books. They're going to get washed probably, they're going to get thrown around the place. They're just a soft something for a child to do something with. So don't go using a flash batting that's going to cause other problems. I tend to use something that's fairly easy care, a synthetic one. This is a fairly lightweight one. You could use an even lighter weight one. You could do it without batting. There's sort of any number of things you can do. I quite like that feel with a bit of batting in, so I'm going to do it here. So it's usually on the instructions that it gives you. It tells you, once you've cut your pieces out, how to pair them together so that you get the right ones, so that when you read through the book, and this is a counting book, that the numbers follow through, so that you're not going from 1 to 7, etc. You really want to go from 1 to 2 to 3 as you go through the book. So it tells you how to do the little pairs and things here. You need to cut your pieces. As you can see, I've got a couple here. This is the 2-page spread. The pages are numbered usually down the bottom on each little page. So this one here says it's page 2, and this one says it's page 11, which seems a little confusing, but that's just the way the book goes through. And it tells me on these instructions here to pair that one with page 12 and page 1. So that's what I'm doing. I've got them right sides facing each other, and I measured that, and I've cut my batting to that same size as the book because I want batting in it. And so I'm going to lay that on top. So everything should now be the same size. You've got 3 layers. You've got two page layers right sides together and a layer of batting, all the same size. So I'm actually going to now flip that over, and I'm going to pin all those 3 together, just roughly to hold them. You don't want them moving too much. It would be a good idea if you've got a walking foot to pop that on your machine, because you're sewing with the batting and things do want to move a little bit. If your pages are a little bit skew, it can happen at times with the printing process and things. Sometimes you can straighten things out a little bit using your iron with a bit of steam in it, or a spray bottle if you don't have a steam iron. And you can kind of iron it so that it's sitting nice and straight, because they can go off a little bit, as I said, with the printing process. So you can usually fix that with your iron. Irons are great, they fix lots of things. So I'm just popping half a dozen pins in just to hold everything in place. And so what we're now going to do is sew all the way around, well, nearly all the way around, 1/4 of an inch in from the edge. And the reason I'm sewing from this side, not the batting side, is I can actually kind of see my edge better, and I can see if there's some line I'm trying to follow, which I'm not particularly, but I can follow it this way because I'm on the fabric. I don't think you'll have any trouble with that feeding through the machine like that. Now you do need to leave yourself a gap. I often leave it in the middle section. It doesn't really matter, probably down the bottom, maybe about 4 inches, because particularly with the batting, you've got to fit that through to turn it out the right way. So we'll quickly do this one. So I'm going to start here. I'm just using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'm just going to go all the way around. So I have a built built-in dual feet, so I don't need a walking foot, which is quite exciting, but a walking foot is great. And just pivot at those corners. So there's no particular tricks, I just thought I'd show you how the process goes. These are a great idea for little gifts. They're easy care, easy wash. Last side now, and I've got to remember to leave myself about a 4-inch gap. Don't sew right up to your sewing or your page will be inside out with the batting. Okay, so that's done, it's all stitched together. I can take these pins out before they attack me. Now what I'm going to do is just snip my little corners off right across the corner. Don't cut your sewing, just a little bit of extra fabric across that corner, and this will help your corners sit nicely when you turn it out the right way. It sticks to the board. Okay, so that's that bit. Now I'm going to turn it out the right way. So now the batting's on the back, the right sides of fabric are facing each other, so that's where we're going to go, into between the two bits of fabric. And we want to turn these out the right way. So you may have a little tool that helps you push your corners out. I find that my fingers work reasonably well for this. Pop your little corners out and turn the book through that hole that we left. Okay, and again push the other two corners out. And you may want to give it a little bit of a press. When we've done this little bit, I often do, because I find it sits better, and then we're going to close up the little hole. Okay, so that's turned out now. Make sure your seams are sitting nicely, and I'm just going to bring the iron over so that I can quickly press that. So when you're ironing it, I suggest you try and just wiggle those seams so that they're sitting on the edge. You've got a little bit of a thickness there with that batting in the seam as well. I wouldn't panic too much about the fact that we're ironing batting, because it's not a quilt. We're not trying to keep it light and airy for warmth. And turn it round and do this other end. And then this little opening that's here, I'm just going to press in. We've done a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so I'm just going to turn in that little 1/4 inch. Now you may want to hand stitch this closed, or if you're a little bit like me and you're not too sure about that hand stitching process, you might want to machine it closed, which is what I'll be doing in a minute. Just try and get that batting and things to sit nicely in there. It's going to be a little bit fiddly, but I think it's okay. So then I'll probably flip it over, give it a quick press from the other side. And I'm just going to pop a pin or two in this little bit that I'm going to close over now. I am going to stitch that on the sewing machine. So I'm going to just pop a pin in there just to hold it, because it just wants to gape open, which won't be helpful. Right, so now I'm going to go to the sewing machine, and I'm just going to sew really close to that folded edge. Maybe as much as 1/8 of an inch in, but no more than that probably. So just the little bit that we left open as a gap. just to close that. It probably would overall look a little bit nicer done by hand. But I have this theory that if it's for a baby, the baby actually won't mind. Right, so that's that little hole stitched up now. And holes in our books. And now what I'm going to do is stitch approximately 1/4 inch all the way around inside, just to give that a nice edge on the page. You don't have to do this step, but I kind of like the feel of doing it that way. Now, a lot of these little book panels have this nice little borders and things, and if everything was working really well, everything would line up perfectly, both sides. It doesn't quite work like that in reality, so I largely ignore that line and I just sew 1/4 inch all the way around the edge. It is something that possibly could look a little bit different, but it doesn't really show in the end result. The stitching that we're doing is not meant to be a beautification process, it's kind of just making the page sit nicely. So I'm just going to go all the way around, approximately 1/4 inch in from the edge. This just kind of gives the pages a little bit of solid feel, I guess. Fun, these little books, as I said, they make nice gifts. No doubt my young grandson will enjoy chewing it and dribbling all over it, but you know what, it doesn't matter because it's fully washable, so there's no problem with anything like that. Okay, so that's that page all done. So that's how you make up a double page spread. And I've actually made the other couple that we need to do for this book. So what we've got here now is this is the front cover and this is the back cover. And we're going to lay that down. So we've got one, I know it's one. This is all about counting cats. I think we're counting the cats. I don't think the cats are doing the counting. And then, all things being equal, we go from 1 to 2. So it's a good idea to check all this at this stage before you sew the next bit together. Then 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So everything's sitting in order. So we just want to line those up as best we can. These books are not necessarily meant to be absolutely exact like a paper book is, or card book. So, and I'm going to pop a couple of pins just down this middle section here. Now you could just do one sewing line down the middle. I personally prefer to do 2. Like I've done on this book here. This one had a little space between, and I've done a line up each side, and that kind of just gives it a little bit of a spine. So I'm just going to come in fairly close to this line here, maybe not exactly on it, just in either side, maybe 1/8 inch in either side of that printed line that's there. And so you're sewing through all thicknesses here, so you don't want to have used a really heavy batting, because that wouldn't be very helpful at this stage. I'm going to pop that into my machine. I'm just going to go in a little bit beyond the edge and hope that it's happy to sew that much. And it is. Back up to the edge and then go forward again, just to do that little lock stitch. And then I'm going to come, so just take this slowly, it's quite bulky. And now I'm going to come down the other way, just inside there. there we've got our little book. It does want to move a little bit at this stage, but I think that it's probably going to be quite okay just the way it is. I have found young babies to be very uncritical of our work, which is always a good thing. They just appreciate everything you do for them. So there's our little book already. So we've got that nice little sort of flat spine area on the back, but as I said, you could have just done one row of sewing down there. And now we can just sit and count cats. So this all works quite nicely, and our numbers are all in order. And so that's that panel, that's a counting one. I'll just show you a couple of other panels, just because I'm sure you've seen some around. So this is an alphabet panel that makes up into a fun little book with the pictures and the letters of the alphabet. And much the same thing, they seem to mostly come in the same format of the 3 double-page spreads. Somehow they work that out. Sometimes it's more of a storybook. This is one about our little friend Paddington Bear. So he's more of a story, he's not so much counting or alphabet or anything, so that's kind of fun. And those blocks there, of course, could be, they're all pretty square looking. That one could be made up into a quilt rather than a book if that's what you wanted to do. And then there's another one here. Quite often you see some of these little storybooks. This is another storybook, Jemima Puddle Duck. So that was just an idea just to show you how to put together one of those pre-printed panel books, because I know that for some people it's a little bit daunting. Thank you.